already set so much in action, it's time for us to understand the art of crafting compelling stories in today's digitized world and how you can continue to showcase your most authentic self in this rapidly changing environment dominated by digital noise. For this, we have with us Pushkar Sane, co-founder and CEO of Convergination Ventures. His 27 years of extensive experience spans digital, technology, marketing, advertising, media, data science, and AI. He helps organizations to leverage the power of technology and data to transform business processes and customer connections. To moderate this discussion, we have with us Tina Garg, founder of Pink Lemonade, a full-service integrated marketing and communications agency headquartered in Bangalore. She has over 28 years of experience and has been running Pink Lemonade for over 14 years. A huge round of applause as we welcome Pushkar on stage, post which Tina will also join him for an interesting conversation.
We're about to break the chain. I thought that forcing you can't do that. Tied us down, now we combat. When gem in your face, we about that. We plus we see the future, gonna get that. Get that.
Hi. When Geetika reached out to me to do this session, she omitted two key facts. That I'll be the guy standing between you and the lunch. And I will go after superstars like Anisha and Lloyd. So this is what I call a T20 match. Okay? 20 minutes, I will bat, hopefully on a flat wicket, can score some runs, and next 20 minutes, I will field questions from Tina. So let's get started. I'll cover 4 key areas: decode in digitization, ecosystem of storytelling, key components, and how you can embrace. Okay? We are living in an era where everything is picture perfect. You see all your social feeds. None of your friends are having any bad days. You know, perfect vacations, perfect office parties, perfect scenarios. So, as a result, our expectations are exponential. Okay, we don't no longer accept that we are having a bad day and a bad photo somewhere, right? Because it's all need to be perfect. There is so much data, there is so much information out there that we look for, for any of our questions, we go to AI or Google, and that is actually causing more anxiety than ever before. Okay? I've got a couple of friends who are doctors with 25 years of experience, and they hate their jobs now. Because by the time a patient comes to them, that patient has already done a PhD on oncology, gynecology, every possible thing. So they're saying, no, I read it on Google. This must be true. What you're telling me is probably not true. So we all are causing more anxiety. And there is a genuine amplification of that, and that's impacting the society. As a result, we have a large amount of dissonance. Anything that we buy, anything that we consume, few weeks later, few months later, we are not happy with it. So there is a general degree of dissonance with products, services, human relationships, our experiences. The same hotel that we love today, 3 months later, we find it a bit old, dated, not as good on service. And there is a general oscillation of outrage. No matter whether you left, right, central, whatever, everybody is outraging about something. You know, get up in the morning, start outraging. On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, make reels, outrage. So as if it looks like everything is breaking down in the world. Right? There is no happiness. Outrage, outrage, outrage. And reels. We go up to dangerous extents to make reels because people who are making reels are making money from YouTube and Meta and all other associated platforms. So they're risking their lives, making reels, cars going over the cliff, people falling from the roof, but they're still making reels. So the rewards are greater than the risks. So we are becoming a society of reels. and we are consuming content like that. How many of you have experienced that you've talked about something, a vacation, a product with a friend, and your Alexa is listening and your phone is listening, and next set of ads on your Google and Facebook start showing you vacation to Goa, right? And all the algorithms will tell you, no, 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 we are not listening to you. We absolutely protect data, we respect your privacy, but we'll serve you ads, one way or the other. Okay, so we are being controlled by the algorithms. We are no longer kind of on our own. Whatever feeds, whatever media that we see is largely driven by algorithms. So my 14-year-old son has realized this. So every time he wants to mess around with my feed, he'll start talking in front of Alexa, some random things. And then he'll say, tomorrow morning, see what ads you get, and let me know, and I'll write about it. When people talk about languages, when I was growing up, they used to have very big emphasis on where the full stop and comma needs to be. You know, our teachers would punish us to greatest extent. Now the language models are changing. There is no longer a Queen's English or King's English or King's Mandarin. It's going to be one universal language which will have emojis, which will have slangs, which will have different characters. And today's generation is talking in that language. So those language models are changing very, very fast. How many of you are looking down on your phones? Right? So in a group, in a meeting, in a classroom, I sometimes teach to MBA students. And the biggest challenge today is people parallelly researching on their phone everything that you're saying and asking questions in real time as you give examples. Okay? So people are on their phone, they're compulsively connected, you're not going backwards. This is going to stay. How do you navigate within that? And when people say we are in attention deficit, I disagree. We are actually in attention inflation. Okay? It's just that people are not paying attention to what you're trying to sell them. Okay, so whatever is important to them, they're paying full attention and cutting the noise out. Glued on their devices, glued on the content that they actually want to be with. Okay, so with that, let me take you through the ecosystem of storytelling. Very simple. Have you heard of 1990 principle? How many? No one? 1, 2. So let me explain. There are only 1% people who create or curate, and out of which only 0.1 actually creates something original. We have Anisha over here. She has written a book. Lloyd keeps writing articles. They are the original creators, right? There are very few people who originally create. Okay? There are about 0.9% people, just for the mathematically correct description of that, who curate. That means they take content from various places, put their own spin on it, and put it out. Again, very, very powerful. That 1, 0.1 and 0.9, create and curate, cannot succeed, absolutely cannot succeed, unless the key, these 9% people who circulate. These are what I call hyper circulators. Before you could finish reading half a sentence, they have tweeted 6 articles from FT and Economist on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at the same time. Okay? And by the time you finish reading one article, their feed has like 27 things. So these guys are absolutely essential for any story to be well told and to any story to go forward. If you don't have this network, and the theme of this conference is me plus we. So me is I'm writing the story, but if you don't have this we, your story has no meaning. They will actually take the story forward. And 90% people simply consume and critique. And they're important. So by no means you should consider them lazy, because if we don't have people who consume our stories or critique our stories, the storytellers would have no role, right? So a lot of people consume and critique in their own way, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, and that's what makes storytelling better. Because people critique, they give you that critical feedback, your next book will be better, your next article will be better, your next presentation will be better. Okay, so all three components are actually very, very crucial. But the middle part, the circulators, though many people consider them to be shallows because they're just circulating without, they are the ones controlling the flow of the stories, going everywhere. So let's look at components of storytelling. Okay? Credibility. Anisha can talk about it because of her experience. Yesterday, Sunita Krishnan was here. She can talk about it because of her experience. Credibility matters in every story. Okay? If you don't have that credibility when you're telling the story, it's of no use. People will start questioning it and they'll start actually doubting what you're saying. So build credibility first, build that experience. Lady who said that she worked 8 years in the same organization, doing different roles, that's credibility, not changing 8 jobs in 8 years. Curiosity. This is the single most ingredient which is in short supply today. Because people have outsourced their curiosity to Google and Facebook. Okay? Be curious. You don't have to have Google all the time. You can observe things around you. Curiosity leads to maximum impact in storytelling. Okay, because you are curious, you find out new things, you get to a new place. Context. Without the context, and stories are not powerful. Context also keeps changing over a period of time. What was true 5 years back, 10 years back, changes. And we have to be in sync with that context. And finally, reduce complexity depending on the audience. You know, if your audience is really evolved at Shashi Tharoor's level, you would write this. Can somebody tell me what this means? Read the sentence. It says, in the event of affection being extended to the undersigned, it is requested that the canine companion, yes. Pets. Dogs are humanity's best friends. Any other person? This is how British used to write 200 years back. This is from a book actually. Okay, as an example how they wrote letters. In today's day and age, we would simply write, love me, love my dog. Okay? Now, the next generation is already writing LMD. Okay, the generation after that is simply putting this. And this is a room full of smart data scientists, tech, women in tech. They will simply like LM square delta. And the husband that gets it is wondering, which equation do I need to solve? Where is that ketchup? All right, so simple tips on embracing storytelling. You all can tell stories. Practice and more practice. When I first got to Hong Kong 22 years back, they took me out for lunch on the opening day and put slippery peanuts in front of me with chopsticks. Growing up in India, I had never used chopsticks. Okay, we either eat with our hands or we are taught how to eat with knife and fork. So I struggled, few peanuts flew out on the table. I said, these Chinese guys can't make a fool out of me here. I'm smart Indian. So I bought a pack of peanuts. I sat one afternoon on Saturday and practiced. And next Monday when we went out for lunch, I picked up all the peanuts. You know, one or two flew out, but by and large I was okay. Now nothing flies out. Be authentic. Somebody talked about authenticity yesterday. Unless you're authentic, nobody is going to read your story. Everything will be formatted and written by AI now. Right? So you write some presentations, essays, covering letters. If they are picture perfect, because AI is editing them, another machine is going to read them. So you have no differentiation. Be authentic. In fact, make mistakes. Few spelling errors here and there actually make you genuine. And that's how we now separate AI versus non-AI responses at times. Less stunts, more magic. How many of you remember Ice Bucket Challenge? Right? How many of you remember who started it? Stunt. Create something that is magical, that week after week, you're doing the same thing. People know that you're going to do this trick and they still come for that show. And they like. And finally, managing risk. Right? If I ask you to walk on a string, on a height, you will say, no, I'll fall and I'll die. But if I ask you to walk here, you will walk. So the capability or the skill of walking remains the same. The risk perception changes. Okay? I'm going to end before Tina comes on stage with a small picture. And this is a story from Grace Hopper era. On 9th of September 1947, this is the first bug, actual bug, that was caught in a relay of a computer in Harvard. Okay? And that is where the debugging actually became popular. The debugging as a term existed, but this was a bug that they found, and this is the log from the journal of Grace Hopper's team that said the computer wasn't working and there was a bug that was stuck. So with that, let me get Tina on the stage. Thank you.
So, when I was talking to Pushkar about curating this whole session, I realized he's a really interesting personality. So I'm going to make a request, just for 15 minutes, give him your full attention, because he has a repertoire of lovely stories to tell you. And I'm going to, and to keep your attention, we are going to stand, because I know the moment we sit down and start chatting, attention goes elsewhere. So Pushkar, thank you for that very interesting talk. Can we start by asking, what is a story really? It's not the Instagram story that we are so used to and so many of the youngsters here are used to. So what is a story? And the relevance of a story, both to the human, to the individual, and the brand.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Tina. See, story could be as simple as you narrating your experience to a friend, to you writing your life story. India, we are not new to storytelling, okay? The greatest stories ever told, Ramayana, Mahabharata, you look at Bible, those stories have been told for thousands of years and people still read them. Very, very powerful story. So story doesn't have to be a book. It doesn't have to be a 3-hour long film. It doesn't have to be something very complex. It could be just your thought for that day expressed to an audience. And that audience could be an open audience or a closed audience. It could be 5 people that you're telling your story. Okay? So story doesn't mean that you got to have a mega production.
So it could be anything from the tweet or few characters
Yes.
to a long format that is working on digital today.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what Pushkar shared so many little ideas with you all about how you can actually use stories to develop both your personal brand, and when we look at the we context of it, a brand, any brand that we are today using, and because I come from the media and advertising world, a brand talks to masses. Tomorrow, when you are, so many of you are already working there, and when you are representing a brand, you will have to talk to masses. And that's where it becomes important as to what do you communicate. Pushkar, I was reading somewhere that a story actually appeals as a format today because of what it makes you feel. It takes you back to your childhood. Everybody remembers stories in the childhood, right? Nobody forgets those stories because it makes us feel something. So my next question to you is, when we take this into the marketing parlance or the marketing world, every brand communicates its essence. How do I know that essence is valid to the audience? How do I know that, or at what point do I balance between essence and what the audience wants? How do I do that?
So every brand, every person have their own values, right? You can't compromise that. As in, if you believe in something, you need to stand for that, and you can't compromise that just because audience doesn't like it, right? But you need to be also relevant to the audience. So if you want to connect with the audience and tell a story, you can say, this is my character, this is my stance, this is my point of view. And I respect if there is a counterpoint of view. Today's day and age, what happens is that I'm telling a story. The moment I say something and tell a story, there are 5 guys who start trolling me. And if they troll me, I either block them, or I start abusing them, or I kind of start playing the victim card. Okay? If I engage in a dialogue, audience might have a counter view. If I'm willing to learn, I'll always engage in a dialogue. And audience can teach me something new that I can refine. Maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe I'm telling my story incorrectly. That doesn't change my values, so to say.
Sure.
But the method in which I'm delivering it may not be right. So you need to always work with the audience, because without the audience, you don't have a story that will be read, that will be heard.
You know what's coming to mind right now, and when you say this, is Coca-Cola has the same story every Christmas. But this year they are telling it with AI.
Yeah.
Because that is relevant to the audience today, and the audience wants. How many of you have seen that commercial? It's all over. Coke has put it out saying, we've made our ad film for Christmas completely using AI this year. Go look it up on YouTube and you'll find an example. So would you say that's a good example of carrying my values and yet presenting it in a relevant way?
Yeah, as in Santa Claus dressed in red itself, in a large way, a Coca-Cola invention, right? So
Absolutely.
from there to AI, they're just embracing different mediums. That doesn't mean they've always got it right. Brands, organizations, individuals make mistake, and it's a trial and error. Anybody who tells you that they got it right, their first draft, first story, first tweet, they're bluffing. We all actually make a lot of mistakes. So trial and error, fail but fail fast.
What can help us then to prevent these mistakes?
Nothing, as in you make mistakes. There is nothing wrong in making mistakes.
But
As in, as long as you are authentic and you're making mistakes, you're improving, and you're not deliberately trying to do something with malice, mistakes are okay. As in, I don't know why people kind of continue to think that mistakes are not okay.
Okay, let me put it across a different way. Pushkar,
Yeah.
you're a data guy.
Yeah.
And the way you read data is fantastic. So
Yeah.
give us a couple of examples of how we can use data to get closer to what the consumer wants. And the rate at which the consumer is evolving is too rapid today. So how?
Okay. I'll give you a couple of examples.
Please, please.
You know, there was I don't know whether any of you saw it or not, but for Winter Olympics 2010, P&G created a campaign which is very relevant to this audience, saying, it was for Winter Olympics, saying, "Thank you, Mom." Okay? Showing sacrifices or support given by moms to bring up an athlete and to make them successful. And before they finished on that podium, how many times they failed, how many trials and tribulations they had, right? So it was a beautifully constructed communication, very, very appropriate theme, everything. But of course, as every commercial interest has, they signed off with a line, "P&G proud sponsors of moms." Okay? All agencies will tell you they've won many, many awards, but when you look at the consumer conversation, individual users, you as a user, what people felt was like, hang on, P&G, how are you sponsoring me? How are you sponsoring moms? Actually, I'm buying your products, I'm supporting you. You're no way actually in this picture. You make a shampoo or a washing powder, whatever, you made a great communication, but don't call it that you're sponsoring us. So the online chatter was actually, we are sponsoring P&G. They would have been better off saying, so that's what data is telling you
Absolutely.
at times. These are nuances, and you listen to that data, you will kind of change it in the next iteration. But unfortunately, they didn't really listen to that data, because everybody in the advertising world kept saying you're winning awards. So they continue to say proud sponsors of moms. But imagine the power if they said the other way around, moms proud sponsors of P&G.
Absolutely.
It would flip that completely.
See, I told you all he has very interesting stories to tell. These are things that we can take away a lot from. So what is the audience like today? And I'm sure many of them are here with us. What are some of the trends that are ruling, and how can we tailor our stories to those trends?
So as I said, look, digitization is making the biggest impact, and that is whether it's dissonance, whether it's amplification of anxiety, audience is demonstrating all of that, whether women, men, non-binary people. But the key is that those expectations, those experiences are changing. So we can't take it for granted. A lot of times, marketing theories, brand theories, organization theories are written 20 years back, 10 years back, and we take them as gospels. No, we can't. Every 3 months, things are changing. So we have to change with that changing technology, changing times, changing expectations, right? Bangalore traffic doesn't change, but everything else changes. You know, yesterday I saw one survey of 10 cities, top 10 fastest growing cities, and Bangalore is on number one.
Wow.
Okay? And footnote said, slowest moving. You know, it was a meme. And I kind of agreed that I've been here last couple of days. I can't confidently say I'll get there in 1 hour. You know, it's at the mercy of Bangalore traffic.
Chalo, we are leading at least somewhere, no? Saying
Yes.
that we can give you that much confidence. But you know, also saw that about 60% millennials today have access to the internet, 53% Gen Z have access, and the next generation even more. So how do you tell a story consistently when the audience itself is consuming it differently?
Yeah, so I think it is more about, it's not earlier people used to say this is digital and this is analog and this is something else above the line, below the line, and all those different medias. No, it's our lives are all about integration of that, as in digital is no longer a separate something. Everything is digitized. You know,
Everything is digital.
I ask a very one simple question. I'll leave you with this thought. You know, I've asked this question for 20 years, and at least 1,500 responses. I've noted it down. At some point in time, I'll publish a paper on this. That if all things digital disappear from your life tomorrow morning when you wake up, nothing digital works, what will happen to you? Okay? Think about it. The first response, if you put it on ChatGPT, recently I did some campus interviews and gave them this question. Those boys and girls thought they're very smart. They put it on ChatGPT. That gave a very standardized scripted answer.
Yes.
We could eliminate them very quickly. That you know, shortlist was very short after that. But think about it. What will happen to you, and you'll realize how integrated how digital everything is.
You know, I have a fantastic example of this. Swiggy and Blinkit, have you seen their carry bags? How many of you have seen the squiggles on their carry bags and the cartoons and things like that that they've put? They've put QR codes over there, and they're actually taking you seamlessly from one world to the next because you're engaging even with that media. So that brings me to the point that media itself is
You know,
changing.
and that will also change. They will soon have screens on those bags. Trust me, it is getting tested as we speak. So they will have moving screens in the traffic, so you don't have moving outdoor screens, but in traffic you will have Swiggy bags, because internationally this is getting tested as well, that those
Wow.
bags will be with screens. So you'll have ads running on that.
Oh, wow. So,
So talk about traffic distraction. I hope there is no,
so we'll get even slower, huh?
or
in Bangalore.
we might be faster.
Or we might be faster. So, one of my last questions before we open it to the audience,
Yeah.
and since we are women here, I do want to talk about the role of media in changing the narrative for women. I have a fantastic example of something that we did for Bhima Jewelers, and we specifically used transgenders to, a transgender person to wear the jewelry instead of women. Also, if you see that Tanishq has the second marriage thing, of course that bombed badly, and that brings me again to data. That why did Tanishq have to face so much flack? But the role of media, what do you see it in changing narratives? Because unless brands take these responsibilities, how will we change the world?
I think media plays a huge role, as in no doubt. And the storytellers, people who create content and people who circulate content play a huge role in telling these stories, as in women perspective, whatever. And it doesn't have to always come from a big organization. You know, I was studying some examples. There is a small jewelry in Pune, PN Gadgil. They have a brand called PNG now all across. They did an ad a few years ago showing, how in family, every generation, somebody has gone into army, right? And this guy is talking through that, and he's navigating through the house, showing pictures, my great-grandfather, grandfather, father, whatever. So you almost expect that he's going to be the next guy going in, and then it pans in on his sister, who's they're doing an RT before she's in uniform, combat uniform, before she goes into a combat role. So that's a small, relatively small business telling a story, and that's women empowerment. It doesn't have to always come from a really big organization. It can come from anywhere.
Very nice. It reminds me of the Cannes ad that actually won an award, where they replaced the women's team of France using technology with men's figures.
Yeah.
And that ad seemed to get so much more watch time and, you know, the Rara effect and things like that. And they actually transformed and we actually showed the women's team playing, we just replaced it with men. But somehow when men were playing, the energy in the audience was so much more. And the moment you show it's a women's football team, like how many of us know our Indian women's cricket team? So I feel media, like you're saying, has a very poignant role to play. Yeah. Let's ask you all, we have last 2 minutes, so I want to ask anyone has questions. Yes, please. Can we give her a mic? Please feel free to ask, because you are all going to tell stories either for yourself or for the brands that you work with at some point. Yeah, take mine. Pushkar, you keep yours.
That's okay.
Hi, thank you. So I wanted to ask a question. Recently, I saw a post on LinkedIn that said that Gen Z, they tend to purchase products when the brands align with their values. So when they have ads that align with their values. So how applicable do you feel that is to the Indian scenario? Because when I saw the ad, I kind of wondered about that.
Thank you. You can keep that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's not only Gen Z, but many generations. But I would say with a caveat. Okay, I'll buy brands or I'll consume brands aligned with values when it suits my budget and it suits my priorities. When it doesn't suit, that same brand, if it is very aligned with my values, very sustainable, but charging me 35,000 rupees from Bangalore to Delhi, I'm not going to fly that airline. I'm going to go on another airline who might be using a lot of plastics, right? So it is where it is possible without breaking your back on the budget or changing your life too much, people are making that statement. It's a start. It's a good start, it's a start, but it's not happening like across the industries or across categories. And it's started with a Gen Z as a phenomena, but you will be surprised that apart from Gen Z, it is also people who are retired, who are no longer in jobs and have fair bit of money to spend, are also making those choices. Actually, it's not Gen Z only. We are the generation stuck in the middle. But guys who are retired as well as guys who are very young, they're making those choices.
And fantastic question. I'll give you just 2 brands because I come from the brand world. Neiman's shoes, I think you must have heard of them. They're saying we use plastic bottles to make those shoes, so they're recycling. So as Pushkar said, all things considered, fine, same. I will make the choice in favor of the other one. Noah sanitary napkins and Papaya sanitary napkins, I don't know, women, you might have heard of it. They are doing well because women are making conscious choices that I don't want to use stuff that is going to not be biodegradable. So, any other questions, please ask, because you have last times. Yeah, there's one last one there. So, you want to just try speaking? We'll try and hear you.
Hi, so I'm Harini and I'm coming from the tech background. So like when you say like we have to be authentic, but there are in LinkedIn or in Twitter, there are like lot of noises. So, but those noises are getting viewed. As someone who wants to share stories, be it from anything, like how we can navigate, because things are getting fast, we have to, garner the views, but we also have to be authentic. I don't want to be one among the noise, but I also want to be authentic. That's one thing. And another thing is how to, have thick skin for the hatred, especially for women. If we share some stories, be it on anything, there is some unwanted hatred. I've seen a lot of online platform. The same story, if a man tells, it is getting perceived differently, but if a woman tell, we have that hatred. So how to have that thick skin? So these are the two questions here.
A very, very good question. I'll answer your second question first. Okay. Thick skin. Are any of those guys who are abusing you online physically coming and beating you up? No. They're coming anywhere close to you? No. Just develop thick skin. You know, I've been in the industry for many years. When I say something, many people will agree. Quite a few people may disagree. And they will start talking. Many years back, 10 years back, I wrote an article saying that our kids deserve a life without screens. Okay? And it was published on Medium as well as a couple of other magazines. It went viral on one of the Hong Kong mums group. Not because they liked it, because 90% of the mums hated it. They say, oh, you don't know why I give that iPad. You know, because I have only 24 hours and when that child is crying, I have to give that iPad to this thing. Why do you write an article like this? So finally I had to say to her, lady, did I tell you not to do that? No. Did I pass judgment on you? No. I'm sharing my experience, why I think I should bring up my child without a screen. Right? You don't like it, that's fine. But it didn't stop there online. I was not even part of that mom's group. Somebody met me at a party and say, hey, you're the guy who wrote that article. So bad. You know, I don't know how your wife tolerates you. I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. Ask my wife. She hasn't divorced me as yet, so she tolerates me and my son is happy. So it's okay. So you will face that. The moment you write an opinion, there are 90% people who will say, oh, I don't like your opinion. I don't think this is a better way to do it like this. But they will not write it. So develop thick skin. There is no shortcut to that. Your second question about LinkedIn. People write LinkedIn influencer, LinkedIn top 10, 40 under 40, 30 under 30, most awarded, most this thing. Nobody cares. Frankly speaking, do you care unless that person is not doing a job that the person is supposed to do in your organization? So if you want to write, go ahead and write. On LinkedIn, on Twitter, use ways to promote it. There are, I'll give you my card, you can, there are ways. I used to be very active voice on LinkedIn, okay? Now I don't post at all. All my storytelling is in a closed circuit of 200 people who subscribe to my feed, who are actually making my analysis better. Okay, I'm not putting anything out in public domain almost for 5 years. I'm doing an experiment. Sometimes I'll put something, see the response. I'm publishing every alternate day in a closed domain. Okay, so you will change. You will change the mediums as well. LinkedIn is today, 5 years later, it will be something else. But, you know, even if you start with one follower, start with that and you will get there.
One thing that's going viral right now is Dipinder Goyal's ad for Chief of Staff. I don't know whether you all have seen it, and for the wrong reasons. I mean,
how many of you are willing to pay 20 lakhs to go and work without salary? You know, it's a good stunt.
Good stunt, excellent stunt, I think.
It gets you PR.
Absolutely.
But look at it in any practical way. Unless your dad and mom has 20 lakhs to go and give it for one PR stunt for yourself, you're not going to take that choice. As in a practical way, I wouldn't do it, you know.
So how many of you are going to tell stories after this? At least try?
Or circulate. Come on,
circulate.
me plus V.
Yeah.
Fair bit of hands. I wish you luck. And any questions, you know, you search it up and you write to me, I definitely respond within 24 hours, no matter what, whether we have met or not.
Pushkar,
Okay?
thank you so much for today. Thank you. In the Indian folklore tradition, whenever you tell a story from Gujarat, Maharashtra, anywhere, the story always ends from, suppose, Punjab. The story went to Punjab and we went home. So I just want to say the story went on digital and we are going for lunch. So thank you.
Quickly before you run for lunch, we have goodies for you.
Get that. We're about to break that chain of thought that forcing you can't do that. Tied us down, now we combat. plus we see the future, gonna get that, get that.
So everyone, you can now head